Season 3 of Black Ops 6 is poised to change the game drastically, or at least on paper it would appear so. Today we're taking a look at the huge list of changes coming across the game's offering for the various modes you may be playing. Drop your thoughts, drop a like, and make sure to subscribe for more Black Ops 6 and other FPS coverage. I'd love to have you in the community, but for now, let's get into it. So for multiplayer, ultimately not a whole ton is changing in the way of fundamentals or foundational items, but there are new adjustments in how you can interact with the game, including new perks and new features. As we'll touch on a little later in the video, there are things that we will cover like movement changes and mobility adjustments, things like that, but those are exclusive to Warzone. The slide friction and other things we'll mention don't apply to Black Ops 6's premium and main experience, but instead only to Warzone, kind of making a bit of a split in those gameplay feelings for the first time since Warzone 2 introduced the unified engine. But anyways, on the topic of multiplayer, the new perks we'll end up seeing here that will allow us to interact with the game a little differently include a new perk called Close Shave. This will be a launch event reward and it'll be a perk 1 slot enforcer perk. So things like your dexterity, scavenger, gung-ho, assassin, bruiser, slipstream, bankroll, and double time, although it will have to contend with those perks of dexterity, scavenger, and gung-ho. So this will automatically use your dedicated melee attack when you perform a weapon butt attack, similar to how Call of Duty used to be, where it would automatically pull out your knife. Instead of smacking somebody around with your gun, it will pull out your knife once again. The second perk we'll see coming a little later on in the mid-season is the perk Vendetta. This again being another event reward. This instead will be a recon perk 2 perk. So playing into your specialty category of ninja, ghost, forward intel, tracker, engineer, cold-blooded, vigilance, and shrapnel radar. This will allow you to, on respawn, mark your killer's last known position for a short duration and grants you bonus score for eliminating that enemy. Vigilance as a perk will counter this, but still might be beneficial. And beyond that, on the multiplayer side of things, we see a couple of new features in base blueprint swapping and a new camo hub being introduced. Base blueprint swapping will basically be your Frankensmithing we've seen in the past, allowing for a base blueprint to either be applied underneath an existing build you already have. So say you wanted to apply the effects of a blueprint to just your base XM4, allowing you to swap out the base cosmetic mapping of the build, or you could customize your weapon accordingly with individualized attachments from various blueprints and those cosmetic skins that came along with that. So that's something that is returning here as a feature, and interestingly, you may have caught it. It was something that at the launch of Season 1 we had for quite literally about a day, and then they removed it as a stealth update where I'm assuming this just wasn't something that was fully implemented and ready to go at that point, but slipped through the cracks, because whenever that happened at the Season 1 launch, you could only apply the blueprint underneath whatever build you were doing. So like taking those attachments on your build and just changing the cosmetics underneath them. You weren't able to Frankensmith various different attachments of different blueprints together. And finally, for the multiplayer specific stuff, the camo hub is going to be a new central hub for all camos, where you can see any weapon you may have left to work on and what those camos are, instead of having to bounce from gunsmith build to check the customization menus. I do hope that with this, they also fix the tracking in the UI to allow for more track challenges to showcase, but we'll have to wait and see. Ranked play, before we move outside of the multiplayer as a whole, does have a couple of actually very important and big adjustments here. You're going to see with Season 3 retroactive SR adjustments and a rejoin feature. The retroactive SR adjustments are to help reverse the impact of cheaters in the ranked play SR system. So for anybody that played a cheater, theoretically, if that cheater gets banned, anyone who played recently and lost to them will have an SR refund for those matches. What specifies as recently, we don't have that information just yet, but it's possible you could receive some SR refunds. One also thing to note though is that if you do play with cheaters regularly, if it's something the game detects you play with them, I would imagine partied up for a large period of time, you might have SR deducted for those wins that you ended up winning with a cheater as your teammate. But again, wouldn't stress too much unless you're like partied up with them, in which case, what the hell are you doing, man? And then finally, a rejoin in progress feature will allow players to rejoin ranked matches if they disconnect. Players will have 5 minutes to rejoin, and then teammates can also receive a reduced SR loss if a match-made teammate rejoins and they lose that match. So giving a bit of mitigation for that time in which a teammate could end up being shorthanded. For zombies, we'll end up seeing 2 zombie types introduced. In terms of fundamental gameplay and adjustments, there's not really a whole ton outside of, like, we talked about how double tap is returning. That's something that, yeah, it's nice, but that doesn't have to be something you end up interacting with every single time you play the new content. The new zombie types of Elder Disciple and Toxic Zombies, those will be there every time you play the new map. An Elder Disciple is going to be, of course, similar in nature to the Disciples you've seen before, most recently in Modern Warfare Zombies, and Toxic Zombies will be easily identifiable by their visuals, but also give off a shrieking sound whenever they're close, and will leave a pool of acid in their wake. So those will be interesting, and we'll see if they're annoying to go up against, as a couple of other zombie types are, but that's your main premium game. Again, a lot of what we have coming up is changes to foundational things of the game and are Warzone specific. This update, in terms of trying to bring the game closer to the nostalgic feel of Warzone 2020 and that original experience, well, it's going to be changing a lot, which is now where we turn our focus. One of the first things is going to be one of the first things you actually get, because it goes live before the actual update for Warzone itself, is the new Domino and Milsim USEF operators that are available for free login bonuses as of April 2nd and the launch of Season 3. But the thing is they're not usable in Black Ops 6. Domino and this other Milsim operator, the ones, of course, that are reminiscent of and directly from Modern Warfare 2019, those are only going to be operators available in Warzone. So we're going to have, of course, the operators from Black Ops 6 Season 3 come over as well, but they're 2 additional operators on top of what you're already getting for Black Ops 6. But getting into actually the game itself, mobility and movement are going to be changed here with Season 3 for Warzone. They said they're fine-tuning player movement, which includes scaling back speed increases introduced over the last few months. We saw some of that over the course of the last 2 seasons here, and then Omni sprint speed scaling and slide friction is going to be getting adjusted as well. This seemingly lessening the slide distance slightly. Friction, of course, being those values referring to the time and distance that takes you to stop sliding. So by adjusting those, they can make it so it's a bit more of a heavy movement feeling. We're also, in terms of movement, getting the ability to swim in the southern portions of Verdansk. Obviously, this isn't necessarily a new mechanic to the Warzone 2 experience and what we've had since 2022, but it is something that's new to Verdansk, because if you try to jump into the Southern Sea, you die immediately in the original Warzone. Now, it's not going to be the case. We're also going to see the returning ability to shoot during freefall. This was a staple for high kill gameplays, landing hot, but trying to pick off an enemy or two mid-air before you even touch the ground, so that you hit the ground running in a sense. It's coming back with the initial drop weapon being the 9mm PM pistol, so you can definitely do some damage here with this, and you might be able to snag 1 or 2 right out of the gate. Zip lines and ascenders are also something that is going to adjust the gameplay experience here with this. Obviously, the original Verdansk, we ended up having the initial launch window of the game, including elevator shafts as the only ascenders in the entire game, interior ones. But as time progressed, there were problems where there are one-way rooftops, there were angles you actually couldn't get onto without a vehicle, like Stadium, so we started to see these zip lines introduced to the exterior portions of the map as well. This is going to be something that's progressively rolled out for Battle Royale. Initially, we're going to see a few ascenders here and there for the problematic locations, but then more as time progresses. But the difference is that Plunder is actually going to have all of them all at one time. So the end of Season 3 build for these ascenders is what we're going to end up seeing in Plunder on day 1. Just know that going in, that it's going to be a little bit different. Loot changes are coming with Season 3 as well, where there's going to be honestly a lot here. Firstly, default loadouts are going to be updated. Raven devs mentioned on the COD pod that we'd see updates to the default loadouts, including weapons like the Kilo, offering a way to jump in and use those new, or rather returning classic weapons right away if you don't have them unlocked or ranked up just yet, which is a nice touch. The original floating loot is going to be returning. This is something that players have been asking for quite some time, but that ground loot, buy station loot, supply box loot, dead enemy loot, doesn't matter. It will now be elevated off the ground and hopefully make it easier to manage picking things up. The rarity colors returns so that at quick glance you can see, okay, that's probably something I want to pick up rather than not. Personally, I'm a big fan of this just for quick recognition's sake. I mean, in a battle royale game or the heat of the moment, quite literally every second could mean life or death in your game. So being able to quickly associate, I want that in a huge loot pool of stuff, it's nice to know. The original armor satchel is going to be returning as well. It's going to be getting rid of those current satchels in the game. The stealth, medic, tempered, armor, ammo, all that kind of stuff that we saw as of the last couple of years since Warzone 2, those are going to be going away. You will only have that original satchel of 8 plates now available once again with Verdansk. One thing that I'm personally curious on is if this will be the initial armor satchel mechanics when it was bugged, like when it was first introduced. I don't know if you guys remember this. Pre-patch, anytime that you picked up a satchel, it would automatically give you 8 plates total. You couldn't take it off or anything, but once you ended up getting that for the first time, it maxed you out no matter what. Whereas post-patch, it accounted for how many players the dead enemy you'd be picking it up had and applied them to your existing total, so that if they had 4 and you had 1 plate left over, you only had 5 plates after picking up that satchel. As opposed to pre-patch, it could have been a case of you had 1 armor plate, the enemy had 1 armor plate left, but if you picked up that satchel, it would still give you 8. I'd be curious to see what version of that satchel comes into play, but that's something time will tell. Loadouts and perks are going to be something that the current loadouts will be used normally, so not too much changing there. Specialist bonus will be returning in Season 3 Reloaded, but they also said it's perhaps hidden elsewhere. So maybe we got an Easter egg hunt going on here at this. Maybe we have the bunker key cards that are available on day 1. We don't know yet, but maybe you'll be able to see that here again. Equipment and field upgrades are going into a dubbed retro refresh, which is going to be coming with the launch of Verdansk as well. This includes your field upgrades of munitions boxes, heartbeat sensors, deployable cover, the PDS, trophy system, loadout drop marker, armor box, and recon drones. Your equipment, you'll end up having the flashbang, smoke grenade, concussion grenade, decoy grenade, snapshot grenade, stim, frag, semtech, C4, spring mine, molotov, and throwing knives, with the thermite actually returning as well. Your kill streaks, you're going to have your UAV, advanced UAV, precision airstrike, cluster strike, and the bunker buster coming later on, where the advanced UAV is still available, but it won't actually be like a purchasable thing. Instead, it's only going to be activated by having 3 UAVs active at once, like the original days. Contracts and how you interact with them are going to be changing a little bit here. The original contracts are returning for launch and mid-season. So your original bounty, your original most wanted, your original scavenger contracts are going to be at launch, along with the recon contract and supply run contract. The beautiful part about these contracts and them reverting back to 2020's versions is contract multipliers are returning. It said the original contract multiplier system is back. This is an additive bonus to each completed contract payout after the first one, which increases every time you or your squad successfully complete a contract. You need cash fast? Then consider the following. Complete more than 1 contract for additional bonus money. The type of contract isn't important. Finishing any contract you like is. Every contract across Verdansk receives an additive bonus of 30% to its cash payouts, and the bonus is capped after you finish the 5th contract. No, this doesn't apply to XP. So just like Verdansk of the past, this means that you should have the ability to just actually farm a ton of things, whether it be cash or perhaps XP. That is still a little bit in a gray area. That last bullet point talking about the bonus is capped at the 5th contract. Does that mean the XP yield and XP bonus is capped? That's a little bit of an ambiguous phrasing, but hey, you can farm for at least a little bit. And the big game bounty and the recon contract on the train are going to be coming at mid-season, which, speaking of, train station and the train itself, along with what is presumed to be stadium opening up, is also going to be happening at mid-season. Your in-match public events are going to again return to the original 2020 feeling, where the original fire sale, jailbreak, loadout drop events, and restocks are going to be there at launch. Hopefully the original fire sale also means better discounts. Vehicles, your helicopter, cargo truck, LTV, Polaris Razor Pro R4, ATV, and all that will be at launch, but all of your vehicles are going to be available at the same locations as they were in the original Verdansk. We're also going to see the return of just the basic functionality here. I feel like Warzone 2 kind of complicated things just for the sake of complicating it, even though that might not be the best term for it. It wasn't a complicated thing to understand, but it just added layers that weren't needed. Like, you're not going to have tire punctures or fuel refilling stations to worry about. Each vehicle just has its health meter, and then when it reaches 0, it explodes and flames out as it did in the original Verdansk. That's a huge change that I personally see as a win. I think it's so much more fun to just focus on driving around the map, not needing to care particularly about gas in the vehicle. You can just go hunting. So that's nice. High-value loot zones will be introduced in Verdansk once again. First introduced in Modern Warfare 3's Warzone, but points of interest will be identified as high-value loot zones, incentivizing more hot drops. And it's said to have a significant update to this coming in mid-season to further expand this. And finally, Buy stations, their original inventory, their original placements, and original UI are going to be making a return here for Warzone and what we have in Season 3. So if you're still muscle memory to where it was, the buy stations are now going to be exactly how you remembered them in Verdansk. About those prices, though, maybe we can get a little bit of a throwback for that, because anybody remember the original loadout drops, how cheap they were? If you know, you know. But anyways, that is the gameplay changes coming with Season 3 for multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone. Obviously, a lot more coming in one area than others, just because, I mean, the entire marketing of this season and the return of Verdansk is, hey, let's get back to how we were in the original. So that is, we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is there any particular change you guys like the sound of? Not so much? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6 and other FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. For now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.